What is going on, guys? This is Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our Week 8 team builder for the League of Extraordinary Trainers. This week we are taking on Coach Eco and the Florida Feraligatrs. Eco is the owner of this league. He runs the league. He's also made a ton of free agent transactions. A lot of his team is missing. He initially had drafted Aegislash and traded that to Wower for Bisharp. Great timing on that one too, because it was the week that we had to play Wower. Also, he's traded something to Mike for Arcanine, and he traded away Crobat for Tentacruel, I think. Something along those lines. I'm fairly certain that the team I have is correct for him. If it's not, well, I don't know what to say because I've prepped for this one already, and I guess I'm just going to roll with it. So, yeah, let's talk about Eco's team real quick here. He has Bisharp, Tapu Bulu, Dugtrio, Alolan Ninetales, Tentacruel, Arcanine, Hitmontop, Venomoth, Alolan Sandslash, Megalopony, and Alolan Golem. Worthy to note, the entire team is grounded. He has no ground immunity whatsoever. He does have grassy terrain that will reduce the power of Earthquake specifically, but we'll get into that in a second. So, his Z-Captains for this bracket, I guess we're in the middle of the bracket now because last week was the start of the bracket. So we're in the middle of the bracket now, but he's got Tapu Bulu and Alolan Sandslash for Z-move users. He has he has priority in Bisharp with Sucker Punch, Dugtrio with Sucker Punch, Alolan Ninetales with Ice Shard, Hitmontop with Mach Punch, Arcanine with Extreme Speed, and Lopunny with Fake Out. Not a wide variety of priority on certain mons, like something like Mew or Lucario get a wide variety of priority, but he does have a lot of priority on a wide variety of mons. 6 to be exact, which he could bring all of. I'm predicting Bisharp, Tapu Bulu, Dugtrio, Alolan Ninetales, Arcanine, Alolan Sandslash, and Megalopony. I know that's 7, but he could switch out something like the potentially, he wouldn't want to bring both of his steel types in Bisharp and Alolan Sandslash. And he might want to swap in like the Venomoth for something. I think that's highly likely. I don't really think he needs to bring his hazard removal, which we'll actually talk about in a second here. So his hazard setters are Bisharp with Stealth Rock, Dugtrio with Stealth Rock, Tentacruel with Toxic Spikes, and Alolan Golem with Stealth Rocks. And then his removal options are Tentacruel with Rapid Spin and Sandslash with Rapid Spin, and Hitmontop with Rapid Spin. So I don't think he needs to bring all 3 of his spinners. I think he would only bring the Sandslash because of the hail. He can outspeed my entire team with that, unless I'm running Scarf to Selgor, which, why would I run Scarf to Selgor? It's the fastest thing on my team. It's tied for the fastest thing in the league. Why am I going to run Scarf to Selgor? So, yeah, that's the thing. And then he actually has some notable 4x weaknesses on his team. He has Bisharp to Fighting, Tapu Bulu to Poison, Alolan Ninetales to Steel, Alolan Sandslash to Fire, and Alolan Golem to Ground. So that's like a lot of 4x weaknesses. I don't know if my team has any. Yep, my team has no more 4x weaknesses after dropping Rhydon, unless you count Rotom Heat, which is only a 4x weakness if you have Mold Breaker, or Terravolt, or what's the other one? Turbo Blaze, I guess. So as long as you have a mold breaking ability, then it's a 4x weakness in Rotom Heat, but otherwise it has Levitate, and Eco does not have any mold breaking abilities. So it's valid. My point is valid. Yeah, so like I said before, I don't think he's going to bring all 3 of his spinners. It doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. I think he would bring 1 of them, and then the other 2 would sit on the bench. If that means that he doesn't have a good water check in Tentacruel anymore, then, you know, be that as it may, then it opens the door for Manaphy. If he doesn't bring Hitmontop, it opens the door up for Mamoswine a little bit more, and if he doesn't bring Sandslash, then it opens the door up for Nidoking a little bit more. So that's sort of my thought process there. I do think that Megalopony is coming for sure. I think Bisharp is coming for sure. I think Tapu Bulu has to come because I have some serious ground threats and he needs to reduce the power of that. I actually thought physical Nidoking would put in a lot of work this week, and then I realized that Tapu Bulu Grassy Terrain reduces the power of Earthquake, and so we're just going to run with a excuse me, But with our special set, pretty much identical to the set that we had last week, just EVs moving around a little bit. So first up is Nidoking, trump card. We're running Choice Scarf, Sheer Force, Earth Power, Ice Beam, Sludge Wave, Flamethrower. Realistically, the only reason I have Flamethrower there is for the Venomoth. It does take advantage of Sand Slash's 4x weakness, so potentially if he's like Assault Vested Alolan Sand Slash, I'd rather be clicking Flamethrower on that thing, but Earth Power does do quite a bit of damage to it, essentially knocking it out. If I was Life Orb, it would knock it out. I had a strategy that we'll talk about when we get to a Selgor, but it's not going to work out this week. So, really good coverage. The only thing actually, I think we hit everything super effectively on his entire team. Earth Power hits the Bisharp, it hits the Tentacruel, it hits the Sand Slash. Oh, I guess we're not hitting the Hitmontop super effectively, that's literally the only thing. Earth Power hits the Venomoth, it hits the Arcanine, it hits the Golem 4x effectively. It's going to hit the Sand Slash, or sorry, not Sand Slash, Lopunny for a lot of damage. Ice Beam is there for the Tapu Bulu and the Dugtrio. Sludge Wave is there for the Tapu Bulu and the Ninetales. And I guess it's our best thing to hit the Hitmontop with. And then Flamethrower, like I said before, is there for the Venomoth, but it's also good against the Bisharp and the Alolan Sand Slash. We're running Max Speed, Modest, Max Special Attack. Max Speed Modest lets us outpace Mega Lopunny by 1 point with our Choice Scarf. And I'm going to double check that afterwards because I'm not entirely sure if I got Lopunny's speed tier right. I'm pretty sure I did, but I'm going to double check after the team builder. So we might be running Timid if that's the case, or if we can't outspeed Mega Lopunny, then I guess I'm going to reduce the speed by a lot and put a lot of bulk in so that we can outspeed Dugtrio. Next up is Mamoswine, Logan. Leftovers, Thick Fat, Earthquake, Ice Shard, Icicle Crash, Knockoff. I wanted to give us a little more longevity this week with the leftovers. I think we can take on a few things decently well with some lefties, like Dugtrio, getting some recovery back from that. We will die to a Bisharp Ironhead, I would think. Excuse me. This lets us take on Hitmontop a little bit better. Lets us take on the Alolan Golem a little bit better. Hopefully lets us take on the Venomoth a little bit better. I'm not sure what that thing can do. I don't really have a ton of experience. I saw in one battle that Deco brought it that it was Z, but he can't bring Z. So I'm assuming it's going to Quiver Dance on something, and then I can't outspeed it with anything, so that's fun. Yeah. Earthquake, again, like I said before, he has literally no ground immunities, and the things that resist the Earthquake take super effective damage from Ice. So, yeah, like, I don't know what to say. What resists Earthquake? Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu resists Earthquake, that's his one Earthquake resist, and it doesn't resist Ice. Icicle Crash is a roll to kill after rocks are up, but instead we have something else, which I'll get to in a second. As you can see, these are my two rock setters, and I don't have rocks on them, so obviously we're not bringing rocks. Ice Shard is good priority. It does about 50% to the Tapu Bulu. It's going to body the Dugtrio because that thing's weak as hell on the defensive side. It's good priority for things like Mega Lopunny too, if I can pick that thing off. It doesn't have greatest defenses. Same with Venomoth. Icicle Crash, again, good Ice Stab. Knockoff to get some items knocked off, potentially, if he's, like, predicting something. I honestly had no idea what to put in here, and I didn't want to put rocks. So I put Knockoff. I guess I could put rocks. I'm just worried that he's going to spin away multiple layers of hazards, and I don't really want that. So, that's the idea. Jolly 220 speed lets us outspeed Tapu Bulu. Excuse me. Let's us outspeed Tapu Bulu. Max attack, 28 in HP to make us an odd value of HP, and then the 8 are popped into defense because it's our next best, and hopefully it lets us tank like a Hornleech or something a tiny bit better. No idea if it'll do that or not. Who knows? Next up is Kakashi, the Selgor. Life Orb Sticky Hold again because I want to do some damage. The goal with this is to lead with this and get some spikes up, especially if something like a Alolan Ninetales is coming in. I am kind of scared of like Auroraville Venomoth, but he doesn't have too much setup on his team. Like, he's got some Swords Dance users, right? And a Quiver Dancer, but that's pretty much it. I guess he could Nasty Plot behind it himself, and I don't have Steel coverage this week to hit him with, so that could be dangerous. But the goal is to get like at least one layer of spikes up and do as much damage as we can. Water Shuriken is good for things like the Arcanine. We actually picked off Mike's Arcanine before he traded it to Eco with the Selgor Water Shuriken after getting a special defense drop with the Bug Buzz. So we're bringing Water Shuriken Bug Buzz again, and we're bringing Sludge Bomb specifically for the Tapu Bulu. I don't necessarily know if Tapu Bulu's willing to take on my Selgor, but Sludge Bomb will destroy that thing's life. I could have run like HP Fire for like the Ninetales or the Bisharp, but Sludge Bomb hits the Ninetales really well too, so that's fine. 180 speed Timid lets us outspeed Mega Lopunny, and max special attack, 76 in HP, just put the rest into bulk, and luckily we ended up with an odd value, so that's kind of what Selgor is doing this week. Didn't want to lose my item. He does have a couple knockoff users in Bisharp, Tentacruel, and I think Alolan Sandslash gets it. So I want to keep my Life Orbs to do as much damage as I can. Next up's Air Canada, Megalodios. I didn't bring it last week because I didn't think it had a great matchup against ST's team, but I think it can actually put in some reasonable work this week. It is weak to his Dark, which is bad because that's Bisharp, but we can take like a Wood Hammer and things like that relatively well-ish. The sort of idea with this is that we're not getting trapped by Dugtrio anyways, so because we're Levitate, so it doesn't really matter. And he can't hit me with Earthquake if he's Dugtrio, so what the hell is Dugtrio gonna do to my Megalodios? Like, actually nothing. It can't touch me, is what I'm saying. Dragon Pulse, Psyshock, Substitute, and Recover. The combination of Psychic plus Dragon is good against everything except Bisharp. So Bisharp is a huge threat to Megalodios, and I figure I'm not going to stay in on that thing anyways. He could just Pursuit Trap me, and that'd be really, really bad. That'd be really bad. At that point, I'd probably lose. I think Eco's team is good against mine in a lot of ways. Like, I can't bring things like Mimikyu, for example, because he has so much priority, so Mimikyu can't do anything. I can't bring things like Magearna because it can't outspeed anything even after a shift gear. Licky Licky might have been okay. Rotom Heat I thought was a maybe for me, but, like, I didn't want to necessarily bring Rotom Heat. I wasn't really sure, and then Mienshao didn't have a fantastic matchup even if it was Scarfed, so I decided to leave those guys on the bench. And so the price I pay is that Megalodios can get Pursuit Trapped for completely free. But the idea is that we can sub up on like a Sucker Punch, and then all of a sudden we're behind the sub, so he has to break it with Sucker Punch, and we get free damage off on something. I could have rocked like Calm Mind or something, but I decided Recover was better so that we have a little bit of longevity against things like the Tentacruel, against things like the Arcanine, especially against things like the Mega Lopunny. If I'm behind a sub, Mega Lopunny cannot do anything to me, and that thing gets bodied by a Psyshock. Hitmontop gets bodied by a Psyshock, Tentacruel gets bodied by a Psyshock, Venomoth gets bodied by a Psyshock. He literally has one switch into a Psychic type move, and that's Bisharp. Which, to be fair, is a good switch into a Psychic type move, but that's another huge weakness that his team has, is Ground and Psychic. So I'm trying to abuse that a little bit. Obviously, we can't hit his two fairies with Dragon Pulse, so we're going to rely on Psyshock. In Tapu Bulu's case, Psychic would be better, because Tapu Bulu has a really good defensive stat. It's base 115 defense, which is actually like fairly decent. But in my mind, he can't touch me behind a sub still. So that's what I'm going to do, is sub. Actually, thinking about this, Roost might be better over Recover, just because if he's got the Grassy Train up, no, you know what? I'm not a flying type, so it doesn't matter. Okay, we're running Recover over Roost. Don't mind me, just talking. Timid max speed lets us outspeed the Alolan Ninetales if he's max speed Alolan Ninetales. To max special attack to hit the hardest. Base 160 special attack is absolutely disgusting, and I put 4 into defense to deal with Sucker Punch. Like the most minorly better. Like absolutely not even. This is probably not going to matter at all. But I had nowhere else to put the 4 investment. Didn't want to have an even value of HP. So next up is Tangled, making its debut. Our Tangela. Eviolite Regenerator, pretty standard. HP Fire, Leech Seed, Giga Synthesis. So I thought about running Sleep Powder. I still might run Sleep Powder over Synthesis to just... Actually, you know, yeah, we're changing this to Sleep Powder. So if I hit the Sleep Powder, it's absolutely fantastic for us, because it puts us in a really good spot to start setting up with like Manaphy or something. but if I but if I miss the sleep powder, then it's really bad. Leech Seeds for good recovery, Giga Drain for good grass stab. The only thing that could harm this would be like a Liquid Ooze Tentacruel could be really bad for Tangela. And also, obviously, something like Arcanine is going to absolutely body me, but Giga Drain does a lot of good damage to his team, and if I'm under grassy terrain, Giga Drain's also going to hit the Pokemon that resist it very well as well. HP Fire is there for the Tapu Bulu if I'm 1v1ing that. It's also there for the Bisharp. I don't think he would stay in on me with Tapu Bulu because Tangela gets Sludge Bomb, and I could potentially be bringing it. I don't know on that one what he would predict. I'm not sure how often he's played against Tangela or if he's ever played against Tangela. I have no idea what his experience level is against Tangela. Anyways, we're bringing physically defensive Tangela, max HP, max defense, bold, with 4 into special attack. Just sort of tanking physical hits super well. We should be able to take on the Bisharp reasonably well with this set actually, and things like the Hitmontop. Arcanine is still going to body us, but with a Violate plus max HP, max defense, we actually I think we tank a Flare Blitz. This also deals with Dugtrio really, really well. It can deal with Sand Slash relatively well, except for Icicle Crash, so, you know, there's that. It also deals with Golem really, really well, especially if he's Galvanized, like Return, because we resist electric type attacks, so we can stop that thing, especially if he's Galvanized Explosion. That could be really bad. But to be fair, I do have 2 ground types on my team as well, so we are resisting his electric. Alolan Golem has an awful matchup against my team this week. The only thing it beats 1v1 is Manaphy, so that's fair. And honestly, the things that I'm not bringing, he doesn't have a fantastic matchup against either. I don't think he would bring Alolan Golem, and if he's bringing it, it's his Rocker, and that's that. So, last but not least is Manaphy, Sparky, the Manaphy with Leftovers Hydration. Tail Glow, Surf, Ice Beam, Psychic. Same moveset-ish that we ran last week, except we had Energy Ball last week and we have Psychic this week, again to abuse the Psychic weaknesses on his team. I also realized that I literally could not hit the Tentacruel well with Surf and Ice Beam, so I had to put Psychic on there to deal with it somehow, right? So yeah, max HP, max defense, bold, taking those physical hits a little bit better. If we can set up and we can take some hits, then we can clean, to be honest. Like if we can, I mean obviously we're not taking like a Wood Hammer or even a Horn Leech from Tapu Bulu. We're not dealing with Tapu Bulu well at all. If he Scarf Tapu Bulu, all the power to you, Ika. You probably just beat me. I'm not gonna lie. Like Scarf Tapu Bulu probably just beats me unless I can get Nidoking in and you think that it's Life Orb. Scarf Tapu Bulu beats my entire team, so I don't know what to say. Like there's nothing I could bring that beats Scarf Tapu Bulu outside of Magearna, and I thought that Magearna had a pretty poor matchup against specifically the Mega Lopunny, the Dugtrio, and the Arcanine. And I didn't want to have to run Shed Shell on Magearna to get anything done, especially if he's like Sash Dougie. I can't set up a Shift Gear and then Ice Beam and kill him, and he'll just get 2 Earthquakes off and kill me, right? So that's the idea. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm looking at his team, why does he have Tapu Bulu plus Dugtrio? That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Like, I get trapping the poison types to kill the Tapu Bulu, but Earthquake in Grassy Terrain is really bad. I don't know. He probably has to just play around it really well. So, anyways, this Manaphy is kind of a win con. If we can set up and go, we can do that. He doesn't have, like I said, he only has a Alolan Golem as an Electric type. Last week against ST, Jolteon threatened out the Manaphy really well, and Manaphy actually didn't get to do anything except like hit the Necrozma a tiny little bit. But he doesn't really have anything outside of Tapu Bulu that threatens Manaphy out, to be completely honest. Maybe like a Ninetales Freeze Dry or something like that, but essentially the rest of his team is setup fodder. And once we get going, we get going. So that's the idea with Manaphy. We're not running any speed on Manaphy. Oh, I did mention that. Yeah, we're not running any speed on Manaphy because I wanted the most bulk possible. Even if we're not clicking Tail Glow and we're clicking like Surf or something, it's still really good coverage. We still have really good coverage for his team. And if we can find an opportunity to click Tail Glow, then all the power to me, right? But yeah, that's the idea with Manaphy. Wall Breakers here and here. Potentially Nidoking cleaning up later. Wall Breaker here. I'm not bringing a ton of setup. Wall Breaker here. Putting something to sleep and then setting up with Manaphy, or putting something to sleep and then setting up a sub. That's the idea this week. That's the plan this week. Oh, I never touched on this point. So initially I was going to run a speed passing Aselgor set with Focus Sash, but I found that he has way too much priority for me to deal with. Because I actually think speed passing into Life Orb, Sheer Force, and Nidoking actually just 6-0s his entire team. But again, he's got so much priority. Even like Ice Shard on a Alolan Ninetales can do a lot of damage. A lot of his priority, like Bisharp Sucker Punch, is doing half my health on Nidoking, regardless. So it was kind of a gimmick that I could have pulled off, but chose not to, because I have a feeling that things like Lopunny Fake Out are coming, and things like Sucker Punch Dougie are coming. So that's kind of the idea with Nidoking this week, is why we're bringing the Scarf over Life Orb, is because I think I need the speed on Nidoking to outspeed some of his bigger threats that I can hit. Nidoking's amazing with Life Orb if you're against either a slower team, or B, a team where all the fast mons are not threats, but the slow mons are. Because then you can take out the threats, and you don't have to deal with, you don't have to worry about outspeeding the things that aren't going to threaten you out. But something like Alolan Ninetales is kind of a big threat to Nidoking. Like, otherwise I could just run Life Orb and outspeed Bisharp, right? But if he's Rock Polished Bisharp, I just want to mention, if he's Rock Polished Bisharp, we can't outspeed him with anything. Even Shift Gear Magearna can't outspeed Rock Polished Bisharp, so that's where I'm going to leave that. And that's pretty much all I had to talk about. Yeah, I guess I'll see you guys for the battle.